Hey everyone, Arlene here with a video tutorial showing you how I created this snowy landscape background on a recent card that I shared on Instagram and Facebook. I had some comments from folks asking how I put this together, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the technique that I used. I'm using Distress Oxide inks in 4 colors. I'm using Black Soot, Faded Jeans, Broken China, and tumbled glass. This is my favorite combination to create a dark, snowy sky. I'm going to be using some purple tape to secure the watercolor paper onto my work surface. And the watercolor paper that I'm using is Strathmore Watercolor Cold Press. And you can pick this up at your local craft store. I got mine at Michael's. One side of the watercolor paper is porous or rough, and the opposite side is smooth. We're going to be using the smooth side up for this technique. We'll also need some water and a paintbrush, and we're going to be using this to create the clouds on our snowy landscape. We'll also be using a stencil from My Favorite Things called Drifts and Hills, and please excuse my spelling on the label here, but I really love this stencil to create the snowy hills in this particular technique. We'll also be using Ranger's Distress Paint in Picket Fence and a little bit of water and a paintbrush to flick on some of the snow onto our landscape, and we'll show you that in a bit. So once we have our water paper color secured down with the purple tape, I'm going to go ahead and position the Drifts and Hills template onto my work surface, onto our card surface. And I'm going to use some purple tape to secure that down. You'll see that I lift up the left side to readjust. It's because I really want to make sure that the template is flat against the watercolor paper so that we don't accidentally get any Distress Oxide ink under the template. So make sure everything is looking good and secure. We're going to start with Distress Oxide ink in the lightest color, and that's the tumbled glass. And at this point, I'm not going to worry so much about the blending. I'm just laying the color down, and I'm going to go from lightest to darkest, bottom to top. So you'll see I'm not really focusing on the smoothness of the blend, but I want to make sure that I get enough color down against the template. Now I'm going in with Broken China, and I'm just going to rub that in right above the tumbled glass. Again, not really paying much attention about the blending right now because we're going to be going back down and back up again with all 4 colors 2 or 3 times. And the very last time I'll make sure that everything is blended smoothly and to my liking before I move on to the next part of this technique. So now Faded Jeans is going on right above Broken China. And again, not really a smooth blend at this point, but not too worried about that at the moment. After I get the Faded Jeans in, I'm going to come in lastly at the very top with my darkest color, and that's the Black Soot Distress Oxide ink. And I really love the look of a darker sky at the top. It seems to me during nighttime to be more natural. And so the black soot pulls in kind of that depth of the sky. So once I got the black soot down, again, not really paying attention to how well that's blending with everything else at this point, I'm going to go back down with Faded Jeans, and I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on the blending. And once I get Faded Jeans in, I'm going to go back in again with Broken China right below that. And you guessed it, right after Broken China, we'll go back in again against the stencil with Tumbled Glass. So while I'm blending here, I figured I'd make a little bit of small talk with you guys. So as you know, I've been out of the crafting scene for the last probably about 3 years, really focusing on work, on my career, and also with family. Huge focus on family. So I had to step away from crafting as I really need to focus my time on the kids. And now that my kids are grown and becoming more independent, and I'm not traveling as much for work as I used to, I've been able to sort of settle in again and start picking up crafty things and working at my craft desk. I'm really excited about that. So here I'm done with my blending. I'm taking off the template and you'll see the nice clean line I have with that first hill. I love the way that that looks. But you know what? We're not done. We need to create some additional hills, and I'm going to build in shadows as well. So I'm going to flip the template over so I get a different shape on my second hill. And then I'm going to go ahead and secure that down with purple tape. And guess what? We're going to do a little something different, you guys. We're not going to do the crazy blending at first like we did with the sky and then, you know, making sure everything blends in later. We're going to go in really, really lightly with 3 of the blue colors that we're using here. Starting with Tumble Glass. And with the Tumble Glass, I'm going to add a little bit to my applicator and kind of dab off a little bit on the tape. And then with a very, very light hand, I'm going to use circular motions there with the ink, and I'm just going to gently, as ever, very, very gently rub in color against against the template there, and just blending into that first hill just a little bit. As you could tell, you could hardly see the Tumble Glass, but that's what we want. We want it to be a very light touch. I'm going to do the same thing with Broken China. You'll notice that there will be a few little lines that show, and I'm okay with that because it seems to me to be a little bit more natural. So, and you'll see that in a second here. Right under my butterfly ring, you'll see a little line there, right there. But that's okay. I don't mind that look. So, again, this is handmade, you guys. It doesn't have to be symmetrical and perfect. At least in my world, it doesn't have to be. So the more natural it looks, the more handmade a card looks, I think the better. It has your stamp on it. So Faded Jeans is our next color. And with this color, the darkest blue, I'm paying attention to rub in the color primarily at the edge of the stencil, because that's where you want the depth and the definition of one hill to the next. Okay, so we're done here. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the stencil. I'm going to wipe that off with a wet rag just to make sure that we don't spread that somewhere else. And then I flip the die over again so we get a different shape. And then again, I told you not everything has to be symmetrical, so I'm finding just a perfect position where I can have the hill come in at a different angle. And then you guessed it, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take Tumble Glass, very gentle touch, circular motions, come back in, Broken China, same thing, circular motions, light touch, and then with the Faded Jeans, we're going to focus our efforts towards the edge of the stencil so that we have the depth of one hill to the next. All right, guys, so we're going to speed things up here a little bit since we're working on the third hill. I'm going to do a fourth hill as well, but the technique is exactly the same as we created the first and second hill, so nothing different. So remember, light touch, light blend. If you get little lines in there, that's okay. Handmade is good. So anyways, little talk again. What's your favorite technique, guys? What's your favorite tool? Tell me. I've been out of it for 3 years. My favorite thing since I've come back definitely has to be the Distress Oxide inks. They're like the best. I mean, they blend so beautifully. You can stamp with them. You can watercolor with them. I don't know. I just love Distress Oxide inks, you guys. It's like, gosh, I really enjoy the Misty. Oh my gosh, that did not exist 3 years ago. The invention of the stamping tool, I think, was just historic in the stamping world. Do you agree? I don't know, guys, but it's the best. I love it. I love that you can stamp twice and not have to worry that the stamp is going to be positioned in a different way. Anyway, small talk, but it looks like I'm wrapping up here. Again, blue jean closest to the template to create that definition, and we're done. We have all of the hills completed, and the next step is to color in those clouds. And so you're going to grab a little jar of water and your paintbrush, And we're going to color in these clouds, you guys. Make sure you have a paper towel handy, because as you color in with your water, you're going to be dabbing off that water from the surface. So here we go. And there isn't any rhyme or reason on how I'm shaping these clouds. Again, it's your handmade design, your technique. You can determine how exactly you want this to look. If you're looking for something a little bit more professional and something to work off of, you can always Google cloudy sky and look at some images, and you can sort of practice what you see with your Google search. For me, I am just seriously just randomly throwing down water onto this card, and I'm not even thinking about how these clouds are going to come out. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that things are going to be okay. So, but anyways, I'm going to be fast forwarding this a little bit. I just wanted to show you all, how to create those clouds, and then now things are going to move a little bit faster. Some more little talk while we're waiting here for these clouds to be created. What are you guys doing for your holiday projects this year? What's your favorite technique? I think I asked you that already, but for Christmas techniques, what have you been doing? I can't wait to create ornaments, you guys, with some of the dies that I've recently picked up. So that's one thing. Some other things are shadow boxes. I can't wait to create a shadow box. So these are some things that I'm planning. Nothing hard planned right now, but I'm excited. So now you see me using my heat tool. I'm just using that to dry off the clouds a little bit because we're going to be creating snow. Take your distress paint and you're going to go ahead and put a couple of drops onto an acrylic block. And you're going to take a wet paintbrush and add a little bit of water to that paint to water it down just a tad. And then we're going to take our paintbrush and we're going to flick some speckles of white paint onto our snowy surface to make it snowy and have that blizzard sort of look on our card. And so you'll see when I first start doing this, I actually accidentally got some huge drops of water that was on the paintbrush onto my card, but that's okay. And you'll see the little dots there. That's okay. Just dab it off with paper towel and just keep on going. Again, we're working on handmade, you guys. Perfection is what you make it, right? So once you got the right level of snow speckle on your card, you can go ahead and wait and for that to dry. You can use your heat tool if you're impatient like me, and then go ahead and slowly take the purple tape off. Now I cut this card larger than A2, so I can cut it down to fit perfectly onto a card base. But that's it, you guys. We're done, and this is the background, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope you do too. And here's the card that I created that I shared on my Instagram and Facebook account. And this is using a MFT stamp set and Joyful Wishes. This is from Simon Says Stamp. And I love the background, you guys. I hope you do too. And I hope you try this technique. And if you do, please tag me on Instagram or Facebook. I would love to see your creations. So thanks for joining me today, guys. Have a great day. See you soon.